2011 January 3日 rebuilding darling，这首 Sam Archer 的 The Undertaker 下火月 sounds like was taken soon then the point the blade shifted to the west. March 中要 got a mission to conquer Hanzo with The Undertaker, a big force convert 在河东 is breaking the fly upon the wheel as Hanzo warlord Zhang was really a green guy. All warlords of Gansu province went into weapon state in case Sasa's further move. Sasa stopped hiding, he really needs to be quick, cause Liu will get Sichuan province sooner or later from his distant relative Liu Zhang and expand to Gansu without a doubt. Time was precious. Zhang will become a nice piece of cake for both of them. Thus, how long still to go from Jiangling to withstand the Western Union? Sasa kept warning him. The Western soldiers vigorous, do stay in defense. Cao Ren obeyed the order, army posted on in front of Dongguan where the wolves garrisoned. The head wolf Ma Cao was standing upon the lofty wall waiting for his prey. Dongguan lies between Monas and Huang River, a junction of three provinces, which is a strategic pinpoint from old. The mainstream of Huang River is shaped an L above, and the horizontal ridge has a reverse branch extending west along the pass, named Weishui. There were four sectors divided here geographically: the NW, NE, SW, and SE. A representative type of cavalry of Gansu province formed by ethnic Qiang, Hu, Northwest Han. Soldiers physically strong at the central part of Han, full of talent in combat. Monster don't used to be their commander, the beast also shared part of it. Ma Cao's a mixed blood of Qian and Han, knowing both with communication, a very sturdy guy from militant family. Members included Ma Cao, Han Sui, Yan Qiu, Li Kan, Chen Yi, and etc. They kept gathering towards Dongguan. So they moved his ass in July. Two masters vying cavalry encountered between SW and SE. Officers kept noticing Cao Cao the dangerousness, but Cao Cao guaranteed they do have better lancer, but they won't get a chance. We will see. And after several days of standoff, the plan started. Hatchet was ordered to draw back and sneak across river from NE to NW with 5,000 soldiers. When they arrived in Pubat, Cao Cao's force followed up from SE to NE. This is a risky mission. Ma Cao wasn't blind, everything was under his eyes. The Hatchet was assaulted by Liang Xin just after disembark. Liang Tiangang played for a while and broke away to Ma Cao. On the other line, federal wolves leased out of Dongguan for their praise. Cao Cao's crossing was smooth, rushing water prolonged the whole process. A battalion was selected to guard the border. Cao Cao was also in. Enemies appeared decided to try. The head wolf was pouncing at the very front. Cao Cao was not yet on board. He stood there in dawn. The brain was running in top gear. A giant strode up and lifted Cao Cao up from behind, followed by a long leap, dropping him off the road. Body seemed more practical the brain than the emergency. But this is not the end. The wolves insanely cunning. Some of them already boarded. The giant chopped the anchor in a second. The flash was severed boarding the enemy tank. Only a few were left on the deck. Giant cracked their heads. For me, the wolves didn't stop biting. They kept tracking the levy. The innate horseback hunters presented to the arrows and four persistent shots constructed a solid dodge from the ship. The boatmen soon became hedgehogs. Giant took up the battle, swung up a saddle and desperately rode at the opposite bank. Landing soldiers forced to watch this hot, quickly moving. The entire ship was nearly submerged in the arrows. They could hardly see that the boat was moving. Favorably, the harvesting ended with a skinny boat linked to the riverside. Cao Cao went down without an inch of harm. People turned sad to joy. A big shadow extended to the ground, body gushed to total down from the shaking boat. People saw hundreds of scratches and wounds creeped over his arms. After they were freed, horses and cows in time wolves got a diversion. Contributive time was given for boarding. All forces slipped over Dongguan before the real contact. Ma Cao simmered with rage. Army had a quick shift to NW concentrated at Rico. Cao Cao showed the wolves the wisdom of a fox. Several small squares split out to be platoons in dark. Ambuscade sneaked across the river and deployed all around the wolves. Ma Cao's lure at the wolves thrust towards the bait thoughtlessly got seriously ambushed. They retreated to Winnan after this embarrassed battle. Insecurity hung over Ma Cao's camp. Soldiers all talking about the giant, kind of all spread upon them. Thus, Ma Cao planned to sue for autonomy of the area to the west of Tongguan, but Cao Cao ignored. Ma Cao got infuriated. Letters of challenges were sent over and over again. Cao Cao ignored again and again. In September, he took the army across where he defended the camp, but never raised an attack. Confusing Ma Cao sued in on a negotiation of the autonomic rights. Council judges suggested to have a talk. Cao Cao consented. Then a big show was schemed. Tallest soldiers and horses were selected to build a greeting team with brand new Hanzo tone and emotionless heavy helmets up. The team lined up in extreme discipline for the exotic guests. Sunlight reflected on those cold eyes. Glitters shine on those curious eyes. The wolves were totally awed by what they've seen. Western soldiers fell over each other making a local Cao Cao responded them with great laughter. Am I different? 2 eyes, a mouth, no for arms, no for legs. A smarter brain though. Wolves didn't stop looking. They kept following Cao Cao to the meeting room and stopped. Only Ma Cao and Hanzo were allowed to get in. Then the pointless, intelligent conversation started. Hanzo and Cao Cao had a similar educational background. The talk was eased from the beginning. They kept talking about the past of studenthood without even mentioning a word of the actual business. Chauvinism permeated the room. But Ma Cao was suffering his poor education there. He didn't actually understand what they're talking. All he wanted was making Cao Cao killed on this table. But a cough sounded from the dark. The half-shadowed giant face was high above there on the side behind Cao Cao. Ma Cao feared. Hours later, they walked out with joyful faces, except Ma Cao. He hastily asked Hanzo what they just talked. Hanzo answered, nothing important. Ma Cao didn't believe, but Hanzo was honest. Days later, Cao Cao wrote a letter to Hanzo intentionally limits the size of Eurasia. Ma Cao questioned about this. Hanzo showed the letter to him honestly, but he didn't work for the growing suspicion. The old fox snickering miles away. He knew that Ma Cao didn't read too much, therefore the crosses and circles became more vivid in his eyes. He would definitely suspect that those corrections were done by Hanzo. As the letter of challenge flew to the camp, this time it's sent by Cao Cao. Unbearable, Ma Cao assented without thinking. The dew came days later. The wolf dragged out his cracks with homicidal eyes. The wave of death flowed across the field without any hesitation. The cracks initiated the charge. Ma Cao was so confident to beat Cao Cao in such a wide open area. But they sadly hit what Cao Cao wanted. A square of light cavalry was sent to take the pounding. Then the hawk and chicken game started with those eager predators. Long later, the tiger jumped into battle from both flanks. Exhausted wolves didn't expect such a play. The sort of squares were firmly pulled in a hurry. Predators turned out to be the preys. Moreover, the giant was committed in his beheading shown on a highly set platform. The wolves did get discouraged. Squares were gradually squished and eventually broke into pieces. Ma Cao Hanzo escaped to Lianzhou. Yanqiu fled to Anding. Chen Yi lost their heads on court. Western Union collapsed. Cao Cao took the wolves den back to his territory. After started their interview after battle, why didn't we just allow to NW directly before they kidnapped at Tongguan? What's the point of the standoff? Cao replied, they're not the woods, they're still the darkest unless they read out a move. That's why fake it in front of them to untime for the Hajat. When he arrived, they got a dilemma. Then why didn't we just attack when we were all in SW? Or that's for many master laws, you've seen that battle come much easier after those kings. Right, but why did you feel happy when the wolves grew more and more at Tongguan? Hanzo is a poor traffic condition. Do I need to be happy that they sent my ticket? Laughter spread over after a big goal. October, Andy was taken back until surrendered. Cao kept his position. December, army started their gorgeous return. Undertaker was left at time to manage the overall elections. On the 12th January, Cao arrived in Nielsen. A ceremony was waiting for him there, and granted him the prime privilege. What's more, dozens of towns of Henei, Dongjun, Julu, Guangping, Zhao were integrated into Caocao's Wake County. Good news kept sending back from the Undertaker. Triple Muscles remnant in Atlantis and started preparing an expedition for the whole northwest. So that Cao got a fist out for the east line. The Nordic Sun Jian was really in trouble. Cao went for him in October. 2013 conflict exploded at Lushu. Sun Jian was kicked to the river, but he lay there and didn't move too far. The army looked like a bunch of crocodiles waiting to drag Cao down. Then the constant provocations were given every day to Caocao's camp. Southern soldiers started to play ridiculous shows on the boat, humiliating Caocao's cowardice. Cao swallowed them in. The 1,000 people lay out their trump. Sun Jian came on his own. A single cockroach show rode back and forth in front of Cao leisurely. Sun Jian almost poured dies out. Cao gave himself a deep breath, followed by a long sigh, keeping staring at Sun Jian unwinkingly and said to his officers, Sun Jian defines a knowledgeable song. Then an overlook scanned over his navy behind, ordered the squares affirmed by well-disciplined soldiers. The bright color red uniform seemed like reminding Cao of the flame of Zibi. The setting sun looked like a lurking eye emerged half above the water. Cao had to flinch. Army withdrew to Yeti in April. May, Emperor published an official thanks note to Cao. My country was already disordered since I was a kid. It didn't even have a clear boundary. I was so hopeless. I prayed to my ancestors every day, wishing that someone could ever have pity on me. Finally, my sincerity brought me you, Cao. You put on so many rights this year and turned the country back to peace. That's totally beyond what I can do. The country is impossible to be organized again without you. Therefore, I grant you the Duke of Wei, autonomic rights authorized. Thank you so much again. Westline Master federated ethnically at Xingguan and regained military power around Nanyang. Undertaker launched the expedition in November. 2014 January, 9 General Zhao Qihanyang General Yifeng had a defection for the coming Undertaker. Master was kicked out. He abandoned the family and fled to Hanzo. All members got killed. Ethnically was left to face the Undertaker alone. Luckily, Hanzo took the reinforcement from Jinten. The new ethnic force grew more than 10,000 soldiers and paid Undertaker big trouble at Xingguan before being taken over. Hanzo's camp participant of the laws ethnically unfortunately received a genocide. Then doesn't appoint an official for this new region, who choosing was preached over and over again before going. Don't send our men to the ethnics, they'll come when they need. They are ingenious, but we are desired. Our men will instigate them and blackmail from both sides. Keep this in mind.
Yes.
The words flew out from ear to another, which is soon sent an ambassador to the tribes and hoped that they could be educated. Without disappointment, they were educated to plead for the ambassador's high position. With disappointment, Tata sent a message back. I'm not a seer, that's human nature. May the young master landed again once I was occupied. July, Tata came again, however, it did nothing this time. Army withdrew a couple of months later, once I was properly given up by purposes. First of all residents moved out of the area beneath her, they above Sunjan last time, only once I was left. Secondly, Liu Bin Sunjan the territorial dispute at who now who bait thus once is supposed to be a fishing bait for adding an extra dimension of the conflict. Switched to Westline, Undertaker progressed. A 30-year-old self-crowned mini-country was taken away at Balga in October. All people in this country got a vote of the Caribbean. The strong arm released us out of physical stress, energy was put on internal affairs. A month later, the Queen was sentenced for provoking dissension. A brother was implicated. The title was deprived, the lives fell by. Emperor started to be afraid. The heavy instruments wrapped up, dispatched to Cao Cao in December. Cao Cao got it on the way to Luoyang. The well-decorated gift ended the exercise of imperial power, but Cao Cao didn't actually come for this. A new announcement was going to be published here. Death penalty is always a deep question. I don't want to see people die in injustice. Law workers must be proficient and aware. Do keep away from officers. The judicial office was newly established, named Cao Yuansu. On the 15th March, Cao Cao aimed at the great guy. Zhang Lu had to be a man. The crazy project was proceeding on the shuttle. After they become its buffer, they cut up the path and ways around the innards. But again, tickets for stakes were sent to everyone by Undertaker. May, frightened ethnics of Qinghai province posted up and suicides from Xiping. They didn't want to be the second D. Thus, all enemy in the north were to clean except Ma Cao. Cao Cao speeded up his head hunting from Chencang. July, Zhang Lu's masterpiece got its first audience. An over 4 kilometers battle was crazily beaten on the mountain ridge. Cao Cao did get a headache. He retreated after several failure attempts. Holy excitement dropped on Zhang Lu's camp. They could hardly believe that it just brought out the strongest warlord in his nation. Soldiers started an undoubted celebration for this great achievement. But the danger was imminent. Cao Cao drew back at the night. Spearhead Gao successfully climbed over the wall and broke the gate from inside. Army thrust in a split second. Zhang Lu didn't even time to say goodbye to his cover. They escaped in the suits on buzzing with nothing but the drunk hairs. Cao Cao looted a tremendous amount of red treasures. Ethnic Bao surrendered with zero resistance. Cao Cao brought the zone into small districts. New administrations were set. Meanwhile, at sea, Long Storm Rider got a rampage. Sun Quan paid a severe loss at her fate. The name of Zhang became a symbol of fright for southern people. The previous one's strategy worked. Liu Bin Sunjian had been wrestling for almost a year, but the session was sinus and they heard that Hanzo was conquered. Liu Bin lost the part of Hunan, Hubei, and Guangxi. In the later months, Zhang He was ordered to move people about Donbass to Hanzo, but the bluster nearly got him killed at Danqu. Zhang He ran back. Zhang Lu chose to surrender Cao Cao rather than Liu Bei for his cover. Cao Cao returned him a title. December, a gorgeous return as usual. Cao Cao said goodbye to Hanzo for yet another as usual. The baton was passed over to Undertaker. Cao Cao advised him before leave. Sometimes a little bit timidity is okay for commander, cause it makes your brain work. Otherwise I rely too much on physical strength that makes no difference with ordinaries. And the comment was written by Cao Cao for the Undertaker, pacing like a panther, fearless forever, you even knows me. Every time when couriers come to Cao Cao from Ethnics, Undertaker was always asked to sit beside, his face seared on the bottom of their fears. On the 16th February, Cao Cao arrived in Yeltsin, lectured temporal aim equipment. Cao Cao participated in plowing works and did it on his own. Mei municipality was officially promoted to be a kingdom by the emperor. The tribes Wu and South Hans both came for celebration. August, Zhou became prime minister of this kingdom, then plenty of flattering articles published. Cao Cao finished browsing in October and jumped back to the scene. Army marched to Shenzhen after a month of training. The young master was a real pain in the ass. They were sieged again, but again they were kicked out from Lusiko. Then Cao Cao managed to build defenses for suburbs and was through to Yeltsin 270 March. The henchman Xiahou number 1 defender Cao Len stormed raiders and they ordered to make defense forward to Cao Hu, soldiers were added. Then Cao Cao enjoyed a hot period of peace in his life until October. Liu Bei billowed up the wave at Jia, Cao Hu responded to him immediately. The potentiality of Liu Bei and the young master was noticeable. Cao Cao re-emphasized on talent selection in the end of this year. Subsequent force was eagerly needed. 2018 January, a coup was conducted by Gen Ziwen on the emperor's capital Xucheng. Raiders set fire on the guarding barracks. Captain Wang Bi sacrificed, offering completely down. Wang Bi's death pissed Cao Cao off. All officials were called to Yeltsin being accused with a baby question. People set fire, stand left. Who didn't, stand right. Obviously, everyone like never left. However, Cao Cao responded with a chill voice. I was just attempting to set fire. Did the rebels just go across and kill the rest by coincidence? You colluded. All of them were beheaded. The anger was a little bit eased by the West line. Cao Hong deflated the bloodthrust Tiger got the head of his assistant in March. Liu Bei's push was temporarily coerced outside of Yanpingguan. So Cao Cao kept enjoying his free time in Yeltsin. April, tribe of Wu and rebelled at Daijin. His son Cao Cao was sent to take a practice. Then from April to June, policies were made for social welfare, including pensions, orphans, disabilities, loan for poor, old people services, and funeral customs. July, military training resumed, particularly for the terrain of Sichuan Basin, because Liu Bei stood there with a great determination. September, army arrived in Tan, a quick message post-March, struck and intruded the south line from Xianyang. His target was the capital Xucheng. Luckily, the number 1 defender shifted to the south from east beforehand. Zhong's push was temporarily stopped, but a big force stationed down in front of Fancheng, a breathless impasse staged in. Misfortunes never came alone in October. Once rebels Holland for threatened, Holland split force to spreads. Rebels were put down in January the next year, but Dragon snapped up. Cao Len roughly killed all rebellions and drew back in a hurry. All troops taken in France staying in highly defensive position. Meanwhile, at the west line, Liu Bei started moving. Troops sent to the valleys from directions intended to tour into Hanzo from the mountain pass. The deal was on the trigger. Clash exploded at Dingju Mountain. Undertaker stopped up the exit at south and east with Zhang He. Liu Bei was blocked off inside the mountain. All or nothing, Liu Bei initiated a charge to the east at the very deep night. 10,000 soldiers split up 10 regiments, kept assaulting Zhang He from angles at all costs. Zhang He stood at the very front of the army, deadly conducting the resistance. The battle tied up. Serious losses stressed on both sides. Exhausted, Liu Bei burned Zhang He's camp and pulled out, waiting for a second chance. Zhang He sucked in chaos. Soldiers were busy saving farms in the herds. They knew Liu Bei would come down again at any time. Pervasive flames were seen from distance. The panther surged out with its cracks unhesitatingly. A glitter blinked through the army on the highway and the retarded sound of the drum was heard. What the Undertaker realized what happened. He's already home. People saw a falcon tilting up the skull and roaring to the sky overventingly. Defenders sucked in death scare. The overwhelming strike knocked her down. Remnants broke out and retreated to Yanpingguan. Morale plunged in a chasm. Cao Cao suffered a grief and were alarmingly ejected into a death valley named Jiegu, a dangerous shortcut, sprinting towards Hanzo, cautious of flaunts to the wind. Her tread was the only grain of cinders, since snaking force was annihilated among Minga footpath, and a quick dash back pointed at Hanzo. However, Liu Bei stopped moving. He stood upon a hill and paid an overlook towards Hanzo. The light of aspirations radiated from his eyes. I'm waiting for you. We're gonna take Hanzo back under your eyes. It was arrived in the late March, another force was silently crawling down from herds with millions of provisions at the meantime. Obviously, he's gonna play Liu Bei on nutrition. Liu Bei also dragged up a specific team from Chengdu, particularly for transporting supplies. Plenty of new and old faces showed up on Liu Bei's expanded camp. They were Falcon Naka, Silver Phantom, Tiger Bluster, Venom Skull, Legend Sage, and a newcomer, Western Wolf. The squad wiped off the potion of vengeance, stalemate uncomfortably staged around the 4 kilometers battle wall. Brainstorming operated in both sides. Cao Cao intended to voice Liu Bei from outside. The tiger had been tactically maneuvered down. Liu Bei read out his move. A guarding squad was sent to the back immediately. The horse and horse game got a breakthrough. Falcon located the bomb. The short fuse jumped onto the horse and broke out. Let's roll it up! The force swooped back from miles away. Phantom got a premonition. He followed up behind and remained a little bit distance. The Delta data returned beforehand. It did go over. Phantom trucked up northeast with dozens of light cavalry men. That's a real ambush. Falcon was seriously encircled. Phantom rushed up for rescue. However, Sandring clocked the desk for directions just at the moment jumped in. It's a trap in a trap! Soldiers all looked at Phantom waiting for an order, but people failed to read the emotion from his face. A second later, his lance pointed to the front, the flashes scratched out, coordinates, lateral, oblique, diagonal. A loophole was cleaved out, the Falcon made a chance sally out. However, Tiger rewarded in the same pursuit, often to risk his life to be a shield for the retreat. Phantom got away thrust back to the camp. The keeper then saw the dashpad, more barricades were taken out in a hurry. Move all the men, leave me alone! Phantom shouted from distance. Then the gate was left widely opened. When he arrived, everything was moved in. The scene was completely clean. Phantom stood outside the gate alone. Silent stares ended the chaotic pursuit. Tiger stated their intentions. Thousands of eyes dressed on Phantom. People failed to read the emotion from his face. The stifling night combat went for minutes. Tiger drew the rein. Insubstantial cold wind kept assaulting their backs. Archers! Phantom yelled out, all emotion burst at the second. The situation was totally somersaulted. The tiger became a bunch of fleeing dogs, locking up their tails, keeping looking back with horrifically frightened screams. Uncountable soldiers steadied the beats, rednecks driven to the intersection angle of Hanzo and Jusui, then the phantom popped in.
我乃常山赵子龙。
The next before dawn anxiously we arrived with reinforcements. It's a mountain stock of dead bodies and a silver rain lancer. Zhao Yun is full of gods. Liu Bei's done it there what it did everything that Zhao Yun did. Actually, there's no archers, no ambuscade, but only the phantom gods. The words choked in the throat of Caocao. He only brought up 2 characters long after, chicken rib. Men forced to take him back to time in May. Liu Bei did take Hanzo back under his eyes. Meanwhile, at the south line, Cao Ren was also in critical condition. Things had been driven to desperation since a battle on the south. 7 divisions was more than 80,000 soldiers assigned to Yijing. The Stockhammer had a quick rush down. They arrived in Phantom in July. The memory of to be merged in mind, the bad presentiment gave Cao Cao insomnia. He decided to go on his own. The only existing active force was left to Zhang He and Chen Chang. Conscription order was sent to Luoyang, his complex soldiers on the way back. Whilst the Hutch was sent down for the shortcut, he dashed down at top speed. Battle was approaching. Yu Jun just made a serious mistake, guarding stationed in the low-lying area in mind of disaster. Hanzo breached in August. Non-swimming Northern soldiers evacuated above land. The tiny little hill was gradually isolated by the flood, and they saw what they expected. Dragon was on a coming boat. This damn smells like everything's just under his control. Yujing is sufficiently knocked down psychologically. He surrendered. 30,000 capsules sent to Jiangling under escort. The rest were integrated into the besieging force. Dragon got a large hail of about 100,000 men in the army. The prestige of Guan Yu shocked the central part of China. The words were choked in the heart of Cao Cao and also the Hatchet. He only had 5,000 new soldiers in hand. It's impossible to make a challenge. The troop cast anchor at Wancheng and the brain extraction cost him. It also cost upon Cao Cao. The brain was totally ragged. How do we move the capital to Yes? And the fighter was asked. Wait a minute, the flood will not favor them twice. On the other hand, Sun Quan doesn't want to see Guan Yu's growth. He will do something behind, leave it to me. The message flew down to the east. Cao Cao was persuaded. Plenty amount of new and those soldiers were called. 12 camps sent to Hajjad. Gathering kept going away. The move started before the surge. A soul-taking scene was there ahead of the Hajjad. Phantom was encircled over 10 moves of enemies. His square was a pin in the ocean. But he got nowhere to hide. This is the moment of truth for the kingdom. He showed us everything. The Hajjad remained determined to come, keeping crawling to the ring little by little. Weather turned better, flood resided. They were just a few steps away from the noted troop. Let's cut in the bag! Hajjad shouted to the enemy's camp. Guarding soldiers were short. They burned all in troop center. Hajjad occupied the ensign. The nearest camp took Guan 5,000 pieces of peanuts. The Arab noise didn't even move an inch away from Hanzo. A scout came back in a hurry. The surge had arrived. More than 20,000 men were coming towards Weidou. In the road Dragon's interest, men were selected for harvest. What? Where is he? Sizong, he is assaulting Sizong's scout capital with hard breath. They were cheated. dragonated it. 5,000 elites broke out and swooped down to the archer. The band cracked. Acquaintances become rivals. They knew each other well in early age. A distant friend talk displayed before a holy fight. I still remember decapitated Enya. That was awesome. You good too. I saw lots of duck faces turned your ads. Oh, don't say that. You was the best everywhere. You too modest, not your brother. I still miss the days when we got together. Atmosphere so much eased. Then Xu Huan jumped back to the horseback and turned back to the soldiers. Bounty Guan Yu's heads, gold, 1,000 pounds. The resonant voice penetrated the head bone of Guan Yu. He was seen with a gaping, dropping jaw, asking, "How do you say this, my brother?" Xu Huan turned back his ferocious face. Business is business. Appreciators not be competitors. In Chinese, this is called 相爱相杀. Xu Huan saved the fate of this kingdom. October, Guan Yu retreated. Meanwhile, the official reply was sent back from Sun Quan. He promised to deliver Guan Yu's head to trade the tournament's rights. Turns out the Viper big thumb up. Defeated Dragon and Emperor's return, lots of town rebelled to Lumen, Shenchen chief commander. He tasted the result of being arrogant to the colleagues. Dragon faked to surrender and flee from Maiton with followers, but Zhulan and Pan Zhang were there waiting for him. Surrender, you guys' family is detained. Followers collapsed, Dragon was left at the center alone. He granted a machete and remained body bone straightened. Eyes were closed after a deep breath in, then a face up to the sky, a deep breath out. Air froze at the moment.
能指引天下百姓之人，唯有我的兄长刘玄德。
2020 in January, Caocao got the post. A familiar face was there in the unfolded box. Memory kept flowing back. Probably the best is always what you've never embraced. Or probably the worst is always what you've ever embraced but lost. Dragon's out. The 15th of March, another military talent finished his meritorious journey at the age of 65. The last words, "Please put nothing in my coffin, words never defines me." Caocao passed away. Give me a plain funeral, remove mourning dresses immediately after it, and go back to duty. Officers at the front line not allowed to come back as the country is still apart. Please put nothing in my coffin, words never defines me. I was a big fan of rulebooks. More than 100,000 tactical sentences were written by synthesizing previous words. These became a manual of his officers to keep innovating during practices. But also placed without certainty, enemies always failed to predict his attempts. He never stops reading in his 30 years military life, often delivers presentations in led parts of thoughts. He versifies every time he climbs, poems are written in rhymes, and musicians collected his words to make songs. He's physical as well, good at archery. 63 birds were ever shot down during a single hunting. He's a good carpenter, houses and rooms are built by himself, works well in principle. He's a frugal guy who doesn't enjoy vanity too much, never had anyone seen the luxury on him and his wives. He shares trophies to everyone who wins exploits, but not even a penny for those flatterers. He doesn't like all the custom of ceremonies, that's why he had his own funeral really simple. The over-wasted wedding habit is also his enemy, so that his daughter only had 10 servants for the wedding to the emperor. He's also a good handwriter, people rank his calligraphy in the second class nationwide, and his musical talent was ranked in the top. He has a great sense of keeping fit, medical knowledge is acquired. He is a pretty easygoing person in private, people usually fail to recognize his identity. He is always the most humorous guy in the party, often makes people laugh out loud. But he's really serious at work, emphasizes on law enforcement, sometimes he kills his own relatives by law, but he cries every time he did it. There used to be someone kneeling for a pardon, he replied, kneeling doesn't change the law. Meanwhile, he is very strict to himself. A day when his army was going across the cornfield, he ordered, "Stampers die." Soldiers all jumped off the horses and went back food, but he fell into the field himself. People were looking excuses for him, saying that the law doesn't work in the manner. He answered, "How can a lawmaker be a lawbreaker?" Then a strand of hair was cut off and planted at the point where he fell. At that time, hair was associated with the man's fame. He's also strict to his wives. A day he's about to take a nap during the battle break. A favorite concubine was asked to wake him up in a short bed, but she didn't make it. They killed her. On the other hand, he's sly and mean. He sometimes kills people as if he messes up his strategies. One day, lack of supplies during the battle, the bunkeeper was asked for a solution. The keeper replied, "We can serve soldiers with smaller container." He acquiesced. Later, the soldiers found a trick. They shouted in the camp that Cao Cao's a liar, so they came back to the keeper and said, "Sorry, I have a use of your hand." Then the sign was set up at the gate of the camp, written that the cheater died. His cruelty, violence, flexibility, craftiness were shown in this instance. Cao Cao is a cross-era transcendent. The comment of the author is genuine, because Cao Cao will be Cao Cao no matter where or when he's born, what kind of skin color he has, what language he says. He's a hero anyway. Another comment was written by his peer Xu Zijiang. Cao Cao's a talented governance and a crafty hero under riots. This one is widely acknowledged by Chinese people. I would like to leave a comment for the 21st century. Cao Cao is an angel in hell. Deep